Okay, folks, welcome. I think we are live, coming to you live from my studio here. So once I get all the buttons pushed and everything going, somebody can let me know in the chat that you can hear me. I think I got two folks here now, going live at not exactly the opportune time when most of my viewers are there in the U.S. You guys are getting up, going to work. And what's today? Today's Monday morning. So it's a Monday morning. 3 folks here now. All right, so it looks like I may have all the buttons pushed, and if somebody can let me know that the audio is okay, that would be much appreciated. And I think, okay, thank you very much, Daniel. Man, it's like I was standing up here all by myself. Thanks for joining me, loud and clear. Okay, thank you very much. So, Daniel, looks like it might just be me and you talking for a minute. Nope. There we go. Be rad. Sounds fine. So, I got 15 folks here. Monday morning, going in late. Hey, Todd, how you doing? Good morning from AC. Yeah, folks. Okay. So it looks like I got everything going. I want to welcome you to this show. And basically I'm going to talk about the Epstein files. What the heck is going on here? Trump denies cover-up in Jeffrey Epstein case. The U.S. president has urged supporters not to spread speculation about the alleged list of the sex offender's clients. So, up until this morning, I've actually been looking at this all day. Up until this morning, I didn't know much about this case. I don't follow the news very closely, which I guess it's going to change because I'm trying to comment about world events now. But for a long time, I don't watch the news. I think I watched the Netflix documentary on this, which didn't really answer all the questions that I had about what's going on with this case. So anyhow, I've spent several hours just digging into this, and I want to answer some simple questions. And I wrote them down here. So if you want to know what I'm going to talk about, and there's no script here, I got no script, but I'm going to attempt to answer the question, the basics. Who are the people involved in this case? Now, there's 2 main players. We all know this. There's Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine, or I don't know how to say her name, Maxwell. They're the 2 faces of the case and the 2 main people. But I've really never got down to who are these people? How did this guy get rich? I mean, I watched several documentaries, and I was still just confused about how this guy made all his money. And through messing around, looking around today, I got a sort of a better picture of how he come up with the money, to buy a private island and all this other stuff, helicopters and planes, whatever he had going on. And that's what I'm going to talk about. So number 1, I'm going to take it back to the basics. Who are the people involved? Number 2, is there other things going on here, just other than just some rich guy with his activities and his girlfriend? And then why would the U.S. government want to suppress information relating to this case? If it was just a clear-cut, okay, this guy is a pedophile, this is his girlfriend, it's a clear-cut case, open and shut. Why would you want to suppress any of the details? Now, I'm not talking about the evidence, that would identify victims and stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about. But a normal case, these types of cases happen every day, and they don't get this level of scrutiny. Okay, so why would the United States government want to suppress any of this information? We'll just talk about, possible motives. Let's see. Now, a couple things up front. If the word conspiracy theorist, what's that mean? If you disagree with the U.S. government's version of events, you're a conspiracy theorist. If you agree, you're a historian. That's pretty much the difference, right? So, up front, I'm gonna speculate. And down there in the little green ticker, I think I've put the definition of speculation. It's basically trying to form a theory when you don't have all the evidence, you don't know all the facts. And number 2, ain't nothing real on the internet, homie, period. So nobody believes the written word anymore, but it'll be a place to start to invoke thought. And I guess maybe another point I'll cover, maybe some people think there's some dirt on the president in there. What's your thoughts on that? The logic behind why there's probably not. So I'm going to try to remain pretty much neutral just to talk about the subject. There you go. That's the ground rules. And again, there's no scripts. Let me go to the comments here. DJ Joe Barr, good morning. JXX up in the house. 0430 where you're at. Todd says, sound like they're trying to not put a list out there for all to see. King B, definitely a cover up to some degree. Okay. Alistair says DJT's the most honest man in the world. He would do nothing wrong. Hey Heath, how you doing? Brandon B. Let's see. So is there some stuff being covered up? Well, all right, let's get into it. So, U.S. President Donald Trump has pushed back against claims of a cover-up, defending his administration's handling of the release of files related to the disgraced financier and convicted sex offender. And that's sort of pretty much what the label is that this guy's been labeled, a disgraced financier. That's the branding that's been put on him, and convicted sex trafficker or what have you, but the disgraced financier part. Okay, some of Trump's allies, including Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon, have criticized a report by the DOJ which found no evidence of a list of powerful individuals to whom Epstein trafficked underage girls. And it also found no signs of foul play in his 2019 death at a Manhattan correctional facility, which was ruled a suicide. Okay, so we'll take a look at that actual memo and the actual footage that the FBI has put out there. And, everybody is obviously talking about the 1 minute of missing footage right before midnight. So we'll take a look at that as well. Okay, so I got 53 folks here. All right, thank y'all for joining me again. Okay, so go over to, and I'll skip around the different news outlets. I'm not biased to any news source. When I look at news, I probably look at 10, 15 tabs on the same subject. And if you just read their title, you know what their agenda is and what their slant's going to be. So I'll just use various news sources, and we'll just start out with, let's see, let me see if I can get this on the screen. How's that look? Can everybody see that? Can everybody see me? I think you can see me. There we go. So DOJ brass vowed full transparency on Epstein before turning up empty-handed. There you go again. Everybody's calling him the disgraced financier. That's his label. Okay, so Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino all called for his secrets to be made public long before this about-face last week. So I guess everybody's been calling for it, right? And then you come out with this memo, and it doesn't it's not the information that you're looking for. It basically says there's nothing to see here. So before we go to that memo, let's look at this post that DJT posted on Truth Social. And I'm not on there, so I don't know if there's more posts related to it, the replies. I don't know. I'm not on any of this social media stuff. Okay, what's going on with my boys, and in some cases gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, Crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration, who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more? They created the Epstein files, just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton, Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me, and now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Okay? So here's the question. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? And I think that's a very valid question. Okay, why didn't they release it? If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? And I think that's a good thing to talk about right there. If there was anything in there about DJT, why wouldn't they have brought it out? I mean, they did everything else, from put deceptive information out there. They were doing everything they can to get the guy, keep him out of there. So if there was something in there that would have incriminated him, they probably would have released it. And it reminds me of when they were questioning Saddam Hussein about whether or not he had weapons of mass destruction. It's after his capture. So they're leaning on him about it. And he said, "Look, you were invading my country. Don't you think I would have used everything I had against you? We didn't have any. Use common sense. You're coming across our borders and invading my country. If I would have used any type of weapon I had. No, we didn't have any." So that sort of reminds me of the situation here. If they had something, they had access to it, that would have certainly not helped out his election. So let's move right on. They haven't even given up on the JFK or MLK files. No matter how much success we have had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, a safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons, it's never enough for some people. We are about to achieve more in 6 months than any other administration has achieved in over 100 years. And we have so much more to do. We are saving our country and making America great again, which will continue to be our complete priority. The left is imploding. Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals, instead of spending month after month looking at nothing but the same old radical left-inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen, and they tried to do the same thing in 2024. That's what she is looking into as AG and much more. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Let's keep it that way and not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So that's the post right there. And I don't know how this Truth Social stuff works, but I read an article that said there's something called getting, what's it called, ratioed or something like that. Something about there's more replies than there are likes or something. I don't know. Anyhow, they said It's the first time he's been ratioed. So that's a big long post right there. That's a big long post. I'm not his PR manager, but it seems that a lot of times these social media accounts get people in trouble more than they help them. You know what I mean? Especially when they go off on long posts like this. Let's just call it like it is. You know, between him and Elon getting on their social media, and them thumbs going too fast or dictating out this stuff. I'm not sure if that was the right move to make. It's too many words. So let me go to the comments. I'll keep looking at your comments and see what y'all are talking about. Okay. How many folks we got here? Got 81 folks. Welcome everybody. Okay. Let's examine the court case where the evidence was presented during his partner's case. Those people in a place rhyme with Snell have so much control in the U.S. Okay, let's see. Used to support Trump. That's over with now. He's breaking all his promises. Epstein client list. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, definitely put your views out there. Put your views out there, because that's what the news are reporting, is that, you know, everybody don't agree with this. Pop Displays, how you doing, my friend? Protecting world leaders that were at the island. Okay, now that that'll play into what I'm going to talk about as we go along. Protecting world leaders and why we would want to protect world leaders. Okay, Trump's the one who brought up the list in the first place. Bondi told Fox she had the list on her desk. Okay, so I think I've got that queued up. So if you haven't seen that, let me see if I can pull that up there. Okay, now this is I don't want to say the smoking gun, but this is what everybody's talking about. You know, how can you come out with a memo that says there's nothing to see here? Let me see if I can get this going. Okay, so just bear with old single dad. Let me get my right buttons pushed here. So I pull that up. There we go. Here we go. See if it'll work.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed, because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay, so there you go. So I guess that's the interview everybody's talking about. Hey, it's sitting on my desk. So that was, when was that? 4 months ago. At least that's when it's posted. So four months ago, the lady says, hey, it's sitting on my desk. All right, now let's pull up the memo. I'll go through, let's see, I'll go through CNN's article here. They're the ones who link to the actual memo. If you haven't seen the memo, so here we go. One more time, see if I can get it right. Everybody see that? Epstein died by suicide and there's no client list. This was on the 7th of July. There's the information. Okay, so Axios was first to report the details of the DOJ and FBI's decision. The department has also released 10 hours of jailhouse security footage that shows no one entered Epstein's jail cell on the day that he died. Okay, so that article links me to this memo right here. Okay, can everybody see that memo? You see the memo? Can you see me? Okay, there I am right there. So it's not dated, But let's go through it. This is not going to be a short show if I didn't already mention that. Some of y'all will be driving to work, so look at it like a podcast. As part of our commitment to transparency, DOJ and FBI have conducted an exhaustive review of investigative holdings relating to Jeffrey Epstein. To ensure that the review was thorough, the FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, and network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desks, closets, and other areas where responsive material may have been stored. These searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. The files relating to Epstein include a large volume of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. Teams of agents, analysts, attorneys, and privacy and civil liberties experts combed through the digital and documentary evidence with the aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting victims. Much of the material is subject to court-ordered sealing. Only a fraction of this material would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trial, as the seal served only to protect victims and did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Okay, through this review, we found no basis to revisit the disclosure of those materials and will not permit the release of child pornography. The systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Alright, so let's break that down for just a minute, okay? No incriminating client list. Okay, so the guy didn't have a spreadsheet of his clients. Alright, is that possible? Okay, it's possible. You went through all the stuff, there's no formally organized client list. You know, maybe his I think there was wasn't there like a little black book or something like that. There was no credible evidence found that he blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. Okay, so those two points we're going to talk about later on. They found no evidence. Is that possible? Well, it's possible in a way. So you just have to stick with me, because I'm going to take you full circle, and then at the end of this thing, some of this stuff is going to make sense. Consistent with prior disclosures, this review confirmed that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. Each suffered unique trauma. Sensitive information relating to these victims is intertwined throughout the materials. This includes specific details such as victim names, likeness, physical descriptions, places of birth, associates, and employment history. Okay, so if everything that they have there is nothing but information on Epstein and the victims, I think we all agree there's no reason for that stuff to be released, if that's all that's there. So let's just let's agree on one thing. I think we can agree on that. If that's all that's in the files, okay, we don't need to see that. All right? What everybody's looking for is who else is involved. They're saying there's no client list. One of our highest priorities is combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims. Perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein serves neither of those ends. To that end, while we have labored to provide the public with maximum information regarding Epstein and ensured examination of any evidence in the government's possession, it is the determination of the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation that no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. Okay, so got 3 paragraphs to go here. After a thorough investigation, FBI investigators concluded that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City on August 10, 2019. This conclusion is consistent with previous findings, including the August 19, 2019 autopsy findings of the New York City Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, the November 2019 position of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York in connection with the investigation of federal correctional officers responsible for guarding Epstein, and the June 2023 conclusions of DOJ's Office of the IG. The conclusion that Epstein died by suicide is further supported by video footage from the common area of the special housing unit where Epstein was housed at the time of his death. As DOJ's Inspector General explained in 2023, anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the special housing unit common area would have been captured by this footage. The FBI's independent review of this footage confirmed that from the time Epstein was locked in his cell at around 10:40 p.m. on August 9th, 2019, until 06:30 the next morning, nobody entered any of the tiers in the special housing unit. Okay, so now we go to the videos that they've posted. During this review, the FBI enhanced the relevant footage by increasing its contrast, balancing the color, and improving its sharpness for greater clarity and viewability. So they've got the raw and the enhanced videos. So what we're going to do is just look at the raw video. The enhanced video is the same, and just I think this is the raw. You know, they look the same, but basically the big issue right now is there's a minute of footage missing. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and play the footage, and you'll see where it skips that roughly that minute, and it also changes perspectives. It changes, the aspect ratio changes as if they've zoomed in or zoomed out. So let's watch it, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so what's our time? 11:57. Now we're not sure exactly when it changes over. You know, you're coming up on midnight. The guy's been locked in that cell since about an hour ago? What'd they say? 10:40, I think is what it said. So the dude's locked in the cell right there. So we're at 11:58. All is well. I just read you the entire press release, so this is supposedly raw footage. But you don't got to be a rocket scientist to figure out that there's some missing footage, and the aspect ratio changes. I forget, maybe it's right at 1 minute. So again, all is well, all is quiet in his little concrete castle there. I think it's right at 59. If it don't change, there you go. Right there. So the aspect ratio changes, and there's how much time was missing there. Somebody counted exactly? Okay, so while we watch that again, what I read about this, what the reasoning was, is that you don't know what to believe, right? That's the problem here. Nobody knows what to believe, what not to believe. The memo said the memo said, hey, this is raw, unedited footage, and I guess some, folks ran some programs on it, and they said that it was 2 clips that were stitched together, so it was obviously edited. That's what they're saying. Then the question comes up, why was it edited? Why are we missing a minute of footage here? And that's where people are going to have differing opinions. Okay, so I'm gonna offer my opinion once we watch it one more time. So coming up on 30 seconds, world will change. These old systems. I'm just going to talk about my experience dealing with security systems. Back in the day when I was a young deputy dog, used to be a cop in another life, and you would respond to these robberies, and these stores would have these different surveillance systems. Okay, they'd have these different surveillance systems, and sometimes it was like a proprietary type software. What did I do? Did I put that on 150? I should be on 158. Okay, I'm not Steven Spielberg. Anyhow, especially 20 years ago, they would have these systems. Sometimes they were on tape, but when we got to the digital realm, it was difficult to get the footage off of their system and onto some type of media where you could enter it into evidence. And so back in the day, what we used to have to do, if we couldn't figure out a way to get that recorder, and put it on a CD or a DVD or a thumb drive, it's different times and technology. We just took the whole damn thing. We took the whole thing. And then the liquor store owner, he wasn't happy with that because we just took his whole surveillance system and entered it into evidence. So the next time you would go there, he didn't want to tell you about it because he didn't want you taking his system. He was more worried about catching employees stealing from him, right? So is this a case here where this system is just so antiquated in the jailhouse that they're trying to get the footage off of there? They can't just plug in a thumb drive or something. They gotta get it off of there. They gotta stitch it together. Okay, it's all innocent. It's all innocent. They put it together, but when the secret squirrels start looking at it, these guys who can, hack your Bluetooth coffee maker, once they put this back up here. Once they figured out, hey, this is not raw footage, there's a minute missing. So the question is that 1 minute nefarious, or is it just because of the system? And I read another article that said all the cameras reset at midnight the same way. It does that every night. Again, you don't know what to believe and what not to believe. I'm just throwing information out there. Okay, but I just remember back as a young cop, when you were trying to get that footage, it wasn't always easy. It wasn't always a way to do it. You know what I mean? Nowadays, probably when they have these trouble systems, you just pull out your iPhone and record the screen. Well, back then we didn't have that. Somebody had to go get a camera. Okay, so the other thing, and leave your theories over here in the chat, and we'll talk about it. But 1 missing minute, I was talking to my buddy, 1 missing minute is not enough time to run up them stairs, get that big heavy door open, go in there and do what you got to do and get out and get that big heavy door closed. I don't think you could do it in a minute. So I'm just throwing that out there. Many people are going to say, hey, that missing minute, it wasn't a suicide. But you got to do a lot of things in 1 minute. So do I believe within that missing minute somebody came in there and pulled that off? No, it's just not enough time. That's what I think. So let me go over to the comments for a minute here. How many folks we got on board? 121. Okay, so Chuck says that's not his door. His room is on the next floor down to the right, out of view. This video shows nothing. Okay, well, there you go. When I first started looking at it this morning, I'd never even seen this video before. So I guess what we're not looking at his door, we're looking at the common area. Okay. Thank you very much, Chuck, for bringing that up. Okay. Turd Ferguson says, yeah, I worked those systems, the old and newer. Okay, bullshit is being told. Okay, this video doesn't even show where the cell was. Alright, so thanks for clearing that up, everybody. So really what we're focusing on is the common area there, and the fact that somebody has to come up those stairs through the common area. So then the question is there some other way for them to get there? I don't know. Jacob says 1 minute is plenty of time. Okay. Alright, so if I didn't preface this at the beginning, this video is designed to evoke thought. You'll learn more in the comments, and I'll learn just as much from y'all posting in the comments. Okay, so that's the video there. That was the memo. And again, the other one, the other video that they show is pretty much the same. It's just cleaned up the contrast. Not a big deal. Okay, so hold on. You know what? I stopped it too quick. There you go, right there. So you can see other people coming up those stairs. So maybe that's what they're talking about. Anyhow, point is, there is a debate over the missing minute of this video. Okay. Let's pull up the next portion here. Okay, CNN reported Friday that Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino has told people he's considering resigning amid a major clash between the FBI and the DOJ over the fallout from the release of the memo, which concluded there is no evidence Epstein kept a client list. Trump said, I don't think so, when asked by reporters whether he was still the FBI Deputy Director, but indicated he's in good shape after speaking with him earlier in the day. So apparently there's some internal disagreements going on about how they handle this memo and what they're going to release. And not everybody is on the same sheet of music. Okay, so moving right along, I said initially we're going to talk about, okay, so Jim says, yeah, no one cares how he died. Everyone cares about his list of clients. Okay. Fictional Truth says, I'd say they have dirt on Trump. That's why they want to throw it under the rug. Clinton, Trump, Prince Harry, etc. on flight logs. All right. 112 folks here. Thank y'all very much for tuning in. So this is where I want to slow it down. I want to slow it down and say, okay, just who the hell is Jeffrey Epstein? Now I realize Wikipedia has a margin of error, just like anything on the internet, folks. Ain't nothing real on the internet, comma, homie, period. That was a random tweet that I read many years ago, written by a young gentleman from the States. Ain't nothing real on the internet, homie. Okay, so what I wanted to look at, all right, not about the current case. What I wanted to look at was, who is this dude? How did he come up with all this money? Because disgraced financier, that don't tell rednecks like me much of nothing. It just don't. You know, and again, I watched some documentaries. I'm like, well, how did this dude get rich? How did he get so rich that he can own an island? So let's just take a slow, like old Samuel Jackson said in The Hateful Eight. Let's just Let's slow it way down. Okay, born in 53 in New York. His mother, Paula, and father, Seymour, were Jewish and had married in 52. Now, his mother is a school aide and a homemaker. Wonderful mother, okay? Dad works for the New York City Department of Parks as a groundskeeper and gardener. So they're not rich. They're not rich folks. They're just blue collar workers like the rest of us. Lower middle class. Nothing special, right? The only fact that we should probably just focus on, okay, parents are Jewish. Okay, he goes to public school, earned extra money by tutoring classmates. So again, that's painting me a picture that he ain't rich. They're growing up struggling like everybody else, just working class people. Okay, he graduates from high school at 16, skipped 2 grades. Indicates what? Okay, he's pretty smart, and attended advanced math classes. So he's a math guy. He's smarter than the average bear. But unless I'm missing something, his family's not rich. Okay, anybody got any other info on that? Go to the comments here. Let's see. Okay, still talking about the list, but if anybody else knows about his early childhood, throw it out there. But unless I'm way off base, he grew up poor, went to a public school initially. And here we go at age 21, back in 74. He starts working as a physics and a math teacher for teens at this school in Manhattan. So something about he was teaching, but he didn't have credentials to be a teacher. Anyhow, it's reported that back then he was hitting on the students and what have you. And you're asking, how did a guy come from a poor family who's teaching get to where he's at? There's got to be some points of change, right? So here you go. He became acquainted with Alan Greenberg, the CEO of Bear Stearns, whose son and daughter were attending the school. So it looked like this is his first crossroads or meeting or point that he goes from being a poor teacher to getting into something different. And what the article says is he basically got fired from the school for poor performance, but this Greenberg dude offered him a job at Bear Stearns. Now, why did he offer him a job? Was it just because he felt sorry for him? Was it something more? Who knows? But he started out as a low-level junior assistant, and he moved his way on up. 1980, 4 years after joining Bear Stearns, he became a limited partner. And in 81, he was asked to leave for some type of Regulation D violation. But he remained close to Jimmy Kane, who's a American businessman, CEO of Bear Stearns. So that's like his first run-in with some rich folks right there. After meeting Greenberg at that school, because his kids went to that school. Okay, all right, so he gets a break. You cut him a break. He's good at math. He gets into finance. So in 81, he founds his own consulting firm, Intercontinental Assets Group, IAG. And when I saw that title, and I just sort of chuckle. And what it made me think of was that movie, about Barry Seals. What's it called? American Made with Tom Cruise. Where the guy hands him the business card and it says, I could play this clip. I'll get the video demonetized, but you know what? Everybody loves to watch movie clips. So this is the clip I'm talking about right here. Hold on. See if I can get it going without showing an ad.
you have an interesting file, Barry. File? Starts off with a bang. Top of your class in the Civil Air Patrol, youngest pilot in TWA history. You were going places.
What's going on here?
Revolution's in the air, Barry. Central America, right now. We're building nations down there, Barry. We're building nations. It's America at its fucking finest. And we could use someone like you.
What a great movie.
Goddamn. You're CIA. Shh. Holy shit. God damn. Look at her.
Well, they tell me she's pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the fastest twin engine on the planet. I mean, shit. She looks like she's going 300 miles an hour just sitting there.
He hands him his business card with the
CIA
company
owns
name.
this?
No. Independent Aviation Consultants.
IAC.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so that it made me think of that movie when I sat there and I read that just the name of the company. And I'm not saying that has anything to do with it, but that's what it made me think of, right? He starts this business. Let's go back here. He starts this business called Intercontinental Assets Group. There you go. It just made me think of IAC. This one's IAG. Barry Seals in the movie was IAC. Anyhow. So all of a sudden the teacher, in a short period of time, goes from being a broke teacher to founding his own consulting firm, which assisted clients in recovering stolen money from fraudulent brokers and lawyers. And he described his work as being a high-level bounty hunter. He told friends that he worked sometimes as a consultant for governments and the very wealthy to recover embezzled funds, while at other times he worked for clients who had embezzled funds. And then the Spanish actress was one of his clients. Now, at this time, so this is around 81, early 80s, he told some people that he was an intel agent. Now, a lot of people just run their mouth because, they're trying to pick up chicks or make themselves sound important, like Jason Bourne or whatever they got going on, right? And again, folks, take this information. Who knows what's real? Who knows what's not? Who knows who put this up there? Ain't nothing real on the internet. But let's just go forward with it. Okay, he supposedly had an Austrian passport that had his photo, but with a false name. Passport showed his place of residence as Saudi Arabia. So that's a pretty far stretch from being a teacher and the child of working class parents. Then in a few short years, the guy's got a fake passport, fake name, telling everybody that he's an intel guy. All right, so moving right along. In 2017, well, I'm sort of getting out of sequence here, but okay, this is relevant. 2017, a former senior White House official reported that Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida, who had handled Epstein's criminal case in 2008, had stated to interviewers of Trump's first transition team, "I was told Epstein belonged to Intel and to leave it alone, and that Epstein was above his pay grade." Okay, so let me get Alexander Costa pulled up here, if I can find him. All right, here he is. Now, folks, when I look at all these situations, right, again, I'm just a dumb redneck from a dirt road, the backwoods of Mississippi. I'm just at heart just a poor old country boy, and most of this stuff confuses the hell out of me. But I think what all of us can do, what I do in these situations, I just like to watch the people get interviewed. And a lot of times the people who don't play like really big roles, they play like, their roles like way over here. They're not as important. They're not really in the know. They don't know exactly what they can say. Or I like to watch their response to the questions. And it tells you a lot about what the truth is and what's not, right? And I'm not going to try to influence you either way. I just want to pull this clip up. And this is from C-SPAN and from 2019. And they're asking this gentleman on whether or not Epstein was an intelligence asset. Okay, so that's what you're about to see here.
I think those rumors are misconstruing the acts of the office with respect to that particular paragraph. One more question.
Richard Lardner from the Associated Press. Mr. Secretary, were you ever made aware at any point in your handling of this case if Mr. Epstein was an intelligence asset of some sort?
So there has been reporting to that effect, and let me say there's been reporting to a lot of effects in this case, not just now but over the years, and again, I would hesitate to take this reporting as fact. This was a case that was brought by our office. It was brought based on the facts. And I look at that reporting and others. I can't address it directly because of our guidelines, but I can tell you that a lot of reporting is just going down rabbit holes. A few more questions. A few more rumors.
Okay, so he asked him the question. That dude was licking his lips, tap dancing all around. And I'm not blaming this gentleman, okay? I'm not blaming him, and here's why. Okay, in any organization, especially if you work for the government, the federal government, and if you're working on something and word comes down from the top to leave it alone, you don't ask questions. You don't ask questions. You don't know if somebody else is working a bigger case or if it's political, who weighed in. If you want to survive, you don't try to change the river. I talk about that in my first book. Don't try to change the river. The river will run your ass over. Your career, your reputation, everything will be over. So I don't doubt, there's a lot of speculation here, but I'm not saying this guy's a bad dude. But I don't doubt that, okay, you're the U.S. attorney. You're about to put a case on this guy, and word comes down from the top, hey, leave it alone. Leave it alone. He's with whatever agency. You can't say the word CIA. You're not supposed to say that. You got to say OGA or whatever their new acronym is that's politically correct, right? But if word comes down from the top to leave it alone, you leave it alone if you know what's good for you. So let's watch him one more time, and you tell me in the comments, do you think what was reported was he told him, hey, the reason I didn't prosecute the guy because they told me to leave it alone. He's a snitch, or he's an asset. He's with the CIA, whatever. They told me to leave it alone. So one more time, let's watch him and see if you think he's telling the truth, lying, tap dancing around it. Just take a look, but he starts out by licking them chops.
I think those rumors are misconstruing the acts of the office with respect to that particular paragraph. One more question.
Richard Lardner from the Associated Press. Mr. Secretary, were you ever made aware at any point in your handling of this case if Mr. Epstein was an intelligence asset of some sort?
So.
I mean, that poor man's lips are quivering. He's licking them chops. He's tap dancing around. That's not the question that he wanted. He wanted coming down the pipe, and he's just not a good. He's probably a pretty good dude. He's not a good good liar. You know what I mean? He wouldn't make it working undercover. So, so there you go. Let's go back to talking about the early years. Go to the comments for a second. Are y'all over there talking about Pia and the village and all that good stuff? All right. Okay, I'm trying to talk about this Epstein case. Okay, so back to looking at this fool here. All right, so he was told to leave it alone. It's above your pay grade. He belonged to Intel. Okay, so during this period, during the early 80s, one of Epstein's client was the Saudi Arabian businessman Adnan Khashoggi, who was the middleman in transferring American weapons from Israel to Iran as part of the Iran-Contra affair in the 80s. He was one of several defense contractors that he knew. In the mid-80s, Epstein traveled multiple times between the U.S., Europe, Southwest Asia, the Middle East. Okay, so just for a second, let's take a look at who this gentleman is. Okay, there you go. There's Adnan. He's a Saudi businessman and arms dealer, known for his business dealings, opulent lifestyle, and he's appeared on shows such as Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Okay, so this guy is a rich dude. We just do a summary of him right here. Where's my summary at? There you go, right there. What was his net worth? His net worth was like, I don't know, $400 billion. So he's rubbing shoulders with people with a lot of influence and a lot of money. Okay. While in London, he met Stephen Hoffenberg. This guy was part of a big Ponzi scheme. And then he met this guy, who's a former U.S. Attorney General. So it's a long stretch from being a broke teacher to next thing you know, you're hanging out with people with $400 billion in the bank. And that Khashoggi guy, I think he went to school with the King of Jordan or something like that. All right, so moving right along. 87, he's a consultant. And then it starts to get sort of ambiguous from there. He's still doing this. He's still doing that. He tried to buy the New York Magazine. But I think the take on it here, the take before we move on, is that this guy grew up poor, and at what point did things start changing for him? And it was around 1980. So the question is, was that the point where this guy gets recruited? And when I say recruited, gets recruited by Israeli intelligence. Let's just throw it out there, okay? Now, why does that make sense? Well, both of his parents are Jewish, all right? So it's not like everything wouldn't line up as to where he's at, his family background. He is a finance guy, and if you're in any type of in the spy business, those are the type people that you want. You want people in financial institutions. Obviously, you want people there. So the question is, did this guy get recruited by Israeli intelligence on or about 1980, 1981, somewhere in there, that set him on this path? Okay, that's the question. Now, let's talk about, I gotta pull it up here. Let me find Ghislaine, if we say that right. Is that how you say it? Ghislaine? Okay, I'll go to the comments here. All right, Dan Bongino said his number one priority is to protect Israel, according to Dave DeHart. Let's see. Talking about Newsom, still talking about the ladies. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up. I wanted to bring that up with just to answer the question: who is this guy? Who is this guy, and how did he make his money from being a nobody? So before we go on with him, then let's ask the same question: who is this Ghislaine Maxwell? All right, you hear her billed as a socialite, a British socialite or what have you. Let's just look at who she is. She's born in France. Okay, in the 80s, she's a prominent member of London's social scene. She worked for her father, Robert Maxwell. Now, this guy right here is going to play into this saga a lot more than you think. Her father. He's born in Czechoslovakia, but his parents are Jewish. We'll talk about him in a minute, okay? Ghislaine moves to New York City. And this is a point, too. She's a U.S. citizen, but retains both French and British citizenship. Okay, so let's ask this question here. All right, when she knew that the investigation was coming down and that she was going to be going to jail, why didn't she go to France? She's a French citizen. Now, maybe it doesn't work like this, but if you have French citizenship, why didn't she just flee to France, renounce her U.S. citizenship, and now it's a extradition battle? But she stayed in the United States like nothing was going on until she gets locked up. Why wouldn't you go to France? And somebody can weigh in on that if they know the answer. But if that's true, you're a French citizen, wouldn't you go to the country that is going to be difficult to extradite you back to the States? And maybe I'm way off on that. But again, didn't I say I don't know all the answers? Okay. She's born in 61 in France. All right. And we'll just pull this up here quickly on Robert Maxwell, but we're going to go into him. I already did that. Okay, she lived with her family in Oxford. Her father installed computers in 1973. And her first job was training and later programming code. Now, maybe you've heard this story, the storyline, but a lot of us have not. And I just never dug this deep into it. So there's a computer background, which is going to be important later. All right. Fast forward. Okay, this dude had a yacht. And in 1991, his body was found floating in the ocean near the Canary Islands and near the yacht that was called the Lady Ghislaine. Okay, so Ghislaine flies to Tenerife, where the yacht was berthed, tends to the paperwork, and attends her father's funeral in Jerusalem alongside Israeli intelligence figures. President, is that Chaim Herzog? I think I said that right, maybe not. And Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir, who gave the eulogy. Now, if that's true, I don't know about you or me, but if I drop dead, ain't no president going to be giving the eulogy. But according to this, her father's funeral in Jerusalem, the eulogy was given by the prime minister, and there's Israeli intelligence figures there. Okay, she said he did not commit suicide; he was murdered. So you've got that event goes down. All right. The relationship with Epstein. Now, what they say is that Robert Maxwell introduced his daughter to Epstein in the 80s. There's some other theories out there about how they met, what have you, right? But let's just take the background on these two, right? She grows up rich, to this father who we're about to go into, who's an even more interesting character than either one of them. Epstein grows up poor. Next thing you know, this guy's rubbing shoulders with dudes with $400 million in the bank. How did that happen? How did he get the funding to start his own firm? But it seems like the shift was in 1980. Okay, so now we're going to go to her father. Her father is the really interesting one out of the story. All right, I'll go to the comments here. Let's see. Guitar Jams, how are you? 79% of Americans say that immigrationists, we're talking about immigration. Okay. And the Professor, hey, how are you? Robert Maxwell, top dog, and Mossad. Okay, and that's where I'm going with this. Okay, so let me pull him up here. Robert Maxwell. All right, so let's just talk about. Can you see me there? There we go. Where was this guy from? Czechoslovakia-born British media proprietor. He's of Jewish descent. Escaped the Nazi occupation and joined the Czechoslovakia, or the Czech army in exile during World War II. Decorated and after service in the British Army. So this guy fought in the war, served in Parliament, went into printing and publishing. Okay. Let's see. He had a flamboyant lifestyle. Had a helicopter, luxury yacht, and in '89 he had to sell some of his businesses to cover some of his debts. In '91 his body was discovered floating. Okay, talk about the early life. He was born into a poor Yiddish-speaking Orthodox Jewish family and had 6 siblings. Most of his relatives died in Auschwitz after Hungary was occupied in 1944, and they escaped to France. Okay, so again, this guy is back during World War II. He's got some awards, sort of a war hero going on. All right, put it back up on the screen. After the war, he used contacts in the Allied occupation to go into business. He, again, is in the publishing business, okay? We got to come down here to where it talks about computers. So somehow or another gets into the computer business, which is pertinent to what we're about to talk about. And then here we go. There's a section on Israelis. Again, is this accurate reporting? Who knows? But it's designed to invoke thought. Okay, a hint of his service to Israel was provided by John Loftus and Mark Ahrens, who described his contacts with the Czech communist leaders in '48 as crucial to the Czechs' decision to arm Israel in the '48 Arab-Israeli War. Okay, the military assistance was both unique and crucial for Israel in the conflict. So according to these guys, Maxwell's covert help in smuggling aircraft parts into Israel that led to the country having air supremacy during the war. Okay, so there you go. This guy's got the background. Now, this is where it gets interesting. And again, folks, I haven't dug into this. I don't know what's accurate and what's not. Okay, but I do know, I think Seymour Hersh wrote a book. Maybe it's in here or something, but Seymour Hersh wrote a book, I think in '91, and made some allegations to this effect. But Maxwell is alleged to have distributed a bugged version of the software called Promise to a plethora of national governments and global financial institutions that enable mass spying by the government of Israel. So basically, they put a Trojan horse in there, they put some code in there, they go around selling it to everybody, way back in the day before people understood what bugs and Trojan horses and all this stuff was. And reportedly, he was able to sell the bugged Israeli version to Sandia National Labs and Los Alamos National Laboratory, two of the most important nuclear research and national security facilities in the United States. He allegedly employed John Tower, who was chairman of the Senate Committee on Armed Services, to facilitate the sales of the bugged Israeli version of the Promise software to Sandia and Los Alamos. Now, there's other documents floating around, and then here you've got the more talk about Mossad. And again, Seymour Hersh wrote a book called The Samson Option. There you go. It's a 1991 book. It details the history of Israel's nuclear weapons program and its effects on Israeli-American relations. The Samson option of the book's title, it refers to the nuclear strategy. Let's go to it. Where basically, if Israel were to be overrun, then basically a nuclear strategy would be employed. And obviously what that sort of reminds you of, the beginning of, what's that movie? Sum of All Fears. So with that, we get to the point where these aren't just, I would say, normal people. These aren't just normal people that, the dude's a pedophile, the girl's his girlfriend helping him, end of story. Okay, there's history here. There's history on all three of them, their family history. The girl worked for her father, who's basically make Jason Bourne look like a beginner, right? He's trying to sell code, or sell software embedded with code before anybody knew what was going on to our nuclear laboratories. It don't get any higher than that, right? So how does that play into all the theories? So let's see, did I answer the question, who are the people involved? So that answered for me, these aren't normal people. Okay. Why suppress the information? Why would the U.S. government want to suppress the information? All right. Well, where do we start? It's not the evidence that shows Jeffrey Epstein in the act of all these crimes. It's who else have they captured on video is the question. Now I'm going to play you a clip here, and it's again, I got to find it here. Here we go. But it's when one of the girls came forth and said, she's talking about how extensively wired up one of his properties, I think it was in New York, was wired up with video and audio. I'm going to play the clip, and then we'll discuss what the girl said.
This country
queued it up here. That's a little loud. Here we go. Oh.
One of Jeffrey Epstein's accusers is providing chilling new insight into his alleged sex trafficking operation. Maria Farmer says Epstein sexually assaulted her more than 20 years ago. She filed a lawsuit against the Epstein estate just 6 days ago. In her first TV interview, Farmer alleged that Epstein had extensive surveillance inside his home, including tiny pinhole cameras. He showed you cameras throughout the house.
The main thing he did when I walked in, and I thought was interesting, he showed me where the men monitoring everything were. So if you're facing the house, there's a window on the right that's barred. That's the room, the media room is what he called it. Yeah. And so there was a door that looked like an invisible door with all this limestone and everything, and you push it and you go in. And I saw all the cameras. What it was like old televisions, basically, like stacked, but they were monitors inside this cabinet. And there were men sitting here, and I looked on the cameras and I saw toilet, bed, toilet, bed. I'm like, I am never going to use the restroom here, and I'm never going to sleep here. It was very obvious that they were like monitoring private moments.
She believes there are tapes. The question is, who has them? Tomorrow we'll have much more of my interview with Maria.
Okay. So again, this is one of the girls, and you look at her. Do you believe her testimony, her story? It's pretty detailed, and so let's break it down. And folks, this is 20 years ago, right? Now, 20 years ago, the technology wasn't as easy for the average person, or even more than 20 years ago. The technology wasn't there. It wasn't as easy for somebody to wire up a place with pinhole cameras. Could it be done? Okay, yeah, it could be done. Can you pay somebody to do it? Yeah, but it's not easy like it is today, where every other freaking Airbnb's got hidden cameras in it all over the place, right? Back then, you had to have a little bit of skill. My early days of working dope, we would spend days putting hidden cameras in cars and wiring up camera cars and stuff. Getting the right angle, getting the audio right. It was a pain in the ass. So one thing that I picked up on, she said men. There were men, other than more than one person sitting in this control room, monitoring this wall of monitors. Every monitor had a label, right? And she basically described sort of a surveillance op. I mean, if you're Jeffrey Epstein and you're just sitting there trying to, pull off your nefarious activities, why are you going to hire people to sit in a control room? That's just more people who would know about what you're doing, who at some point might want more money, and your own employees are become a problem, right? So it just didn't make any sense, other than the fact that those guys in the room are probably running the show. Does that make sense? Now, then you ask yourself the question, why would he show her the room? Now, I can't really answer that other than the fact, I don't know, maybe the guy was drinking, maybe he was showing off, maybe, who knows? I mean, you don't show the room to anybody. But if you believe the girl, she looks in this control room, there's multiple people sitting in there watching multiple monitors. The entire apartment is wired. And then what's the purpose? What's the purpose? So if you go down the line of this guy, both of them are working for an intelligence agency, assumably the Israelis from their background. They're just basically using this operation to get dirt on people. The traditional honey trap. And they're using what he's doing, which is evil in itself. But you got to understand, folks, other governments and other agencies, they don't look at things the same way as American law enforcement or American intelligence looks at things, right? I mean, I remember back in the day, when you have to get a snitch approved, it got so bad at one point, if a guy had a previous DUI, you couldn't use him because he might crash the car on the way to the meeting and somebody might get hurt, and they would deny this guy's approval for being a snitch. Other governments don't operate like that. They're mission focused. They don't care what it takes to get the information and get the job done. So that's why I say it wasn't our people as part of this. It had to be somebody else. It just makes sense. It's it's the Israelis. Manning the cameras, because it's just the smallest thing, the smallest explanation, right? So then the question is, what's in the files? And they have all these files of Epstein, but somebody just brought up a comment and said, hey, Epstein is another Oswald. Well, my buddy brought up a good point, and he said, you know what, man? They may have caught this dude doing this and went to him and said, hey, now we've got you by the balls. You're going to do what we want to do. Who knows? Maybe he wasn't. He was just being directed. He was being directed, and he wasn't driving the bus, so to speak. And if that's the case, well, then most of these tapes he probably wouldn't have possession of. Because if you're focused and you're running somebody, you're going to go there, make sure he sets it up, you get the tapes go with you. But you can't control what the guy does on his own time. And maybe that's the case. So it's going to be a question, what tapes do they have? It's not about the list. Okay? Who gives a shit about a list? Because you can put anybody's name on a list and they're going to deny it. It's not about the list. So everybody right now is in a big uproar, over this fucking client list, which everybody's just going to deny anyhow. It's not about the list. It's about the tapes, the hours and hours and hours of tapes or videos, which are probably on CDs. I think somebody said they saw a bunch of CDs, or some of the media was, back then you recorded shit, burned it to CDs. Boom, David Dehart, thank you very much. Thank you very much, my friend. So, I think everybody's worried about the wrong thing. Who gives a shit about the list, I'm not getting mad at Trump or anybody because they won't release a list. It's about the actual videotapes themselves. Who has the material? And who's on the tapes other than him? That's the big thing. So let's go on and answer the question, why would the federal government and the intel agencies not want to release that? Okay, well, say the Israelis did all this, right? We didn't have anything to do with it, but they did it. But now we're in possession of some of the tapes. Well, how do you get people to work for you? You can't just go up to a drug dealer and say, hey man, can you tell me who your supplier is? Who's your source? It don't work like that. I'm going to tell you to screw off. But if you go up to that same guy and say, hey man, I want you to meet this undercover guy. He bought 4 ounces of coke from you last week. Now we got a trafficking charge on you. Now you want to cooperate? Okay. So you got to get some type of leverage. Well, if these tapes are leverage for people around the world, no, obviously they don't want to make any of this public, because then you lose the leverage. And folks, I don't have any inside information, but let's just say that they have tapes on people from 30 different countries. That's 30 different countries that when we bring our agenda to them, we have people there that are always going to vote for it. Why? Because they have those tapes. All right, but here's the thing. For blackmail to work, there has to be 2 basic elements, right? Whatever you're holding against the other person has to actually care. Okay, that's element number 1. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey man, if you don't give me $1,000, I'm going to put this video of you and this fat chick that you hooked up with at the Motel 6, I'm going to put that on the internet. Okay, well, I actually have to give a shit. I just laugh at them. I'm like, dude, Shit, man, that video's been on the internet for 20 years, you know, or hell, man, go ahead and post that shit. Send me the link. You know, I'd love to talk about it. I remember that big girl. So it wouldn't work because I don't give a shit. Where if you took a married guy with, you know, a big pension, you know, his wife is going to get part of that. Okay, well, it would work. He'll pay the guy $1,000 not to do what he's threatening to do. So that's element number one. Element number two, for it to work, is that the information can't be public. If the information is already public, then that guy's not going to talk to you again. Why? The information has already gone public. He's not giving you no money. So same deal. The guy comes up to me, hey man, you know, I got a video of you and this fat girl. Dude, that's been on the internet for 20 years. That ain't nothing new. You got nothing on me. So if, I'm just speculating, if some of this material is just still being used to, you know, gain favor, and then if it is released, it's going to be a damn shitstorm. Okay, then it's not just the rich protecting the rich. There's more to it, is what I'm trying to invoke thought about. Okay, so is there a reason for them to suppress the information? Well, if it's being used to influence other world leaders, why would you want to give up that influence? And that's the question. What's more important, to release the information for the American public, or to suppress the information to keep the assets in place? There you go. And then the question about whether or not there's dirt on President Trump in there. I don't know, man. They had 4 years to release that stuff. An election that they were losing. I think if they were going to release it, they probably would have done it just like Saddam Hussein said. You were coming across my border, invading my country. I would have used every weapon possible against you. I just didn't have it. So that's one theory there. All right, so that's pretty much everything I learned, sort of in a nutshell, that there's more to the story. The other thing that we were talking about is the island. I watched this one video where the guy said, look, this dude was not acting like a typical rich guy. Okay, typical rich guy has, you know, 20, 30, 40 million in the bank, 100 million. You don't go buy an island. If you go and buy an island, how much does that cost to upkeep that island? My gosh, just to get people back and forth, the transportation, you got helicopters and all this. It was almost like he was spending more money than the average rich guy would be able to spend and sustain it. And that would lead more credence that there was a government backing that up. And I also read they were trying to buy a bigger island, but they got booted off because they screwed up the reef or some shit. They were trying to get bigger. Buying an island and doing stuff like that, okay, if it was Bill Gates money or Elon Musk money, okay, no big deal. But when you're, you know, rich at his level, it's like a little bit too much. That was the guy's point of the video. So just more food for thought. Okay, all right, so that's my talk, folks. I think I've pretty much covered the three points I wanted to cover. And what I'm going to do is go back and watch that Netflix documentary, armed with what I know now, and then dig around about Maxwell's father, and probably read that book by Seymour Hersh, and see what his take is on it. Because, you know, if that software got embedded over there at those labs, there's no telling where the rabbit hole is going to take you if you just start going down it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and go to the comments. Anybody got anything they want to weigh in on, I'll go ahead and talk about that, and then I'll close down the stream. Man, I was going to go live at 9 o'clock, regular time, and I just kept looking at stuff, and it just kept getting crazier and crazier. Especially with her father, I was like, man, there's so much more to this than just releasing the client list. And again, all the good stuff, all the good stuff, they probably don't have anyhow. They probably didn't get that out of his stuff anyhow. All the good stuff is not over there with the FBI. To other places. When I say the good stuff, I'm talking about the very incriminating evidence. Okay, thanks, Jim. Hey, I laugh. How you doing? I lost you at some point. Yeah, I lost myself, man. I lost myself. But the overall point is there's a lot more to the story than just some disgraced financier who's a pedophile. There's a lot more to the story. Okay, JXX, can you discuss why... Oh, my iPad shut down. Can you discuss why Trump would bring it up, then not release it? I'm assuming he had to make a credible threat to the perps for them to cooperate. That's a good theory, too. Yeah, so why would they saber rattle and bring it up? Hey, we're going to release this stuff. We're going to release this stuff. Well, I mean, if people stop cooperating or stop being so responsive, maybe you scare them up a little bit. Hey, we're about to release this stuff. Then all of a sudden, you got people coming back to the table. Hey, man, okay, all right. Hey, just make sure that don't happen. I can't deal with that. We all know that Trump is a chess player. If you haven't seen that or picked up on that, whether you like the guy or not, if you're playing chess and looking 10 moves ahead, the dude's looking 110 moves ahead. The relationship with him and Musk, me and my buddy talked about it. We knew right when that shit started up that eventually it was going to sour. And then, for us, Ray Charles could see that coming. But then the question was it engineered? Sometimes when drastic times require drastic measures. And at times people have to take one for the team, even if it makes them look bad. I'm not saying that's the case with those two. But the guy's a chess player. So was this engineered? He's smart enough. Come on, give him credit. He's smart enough to know that if you promise to release something and then you don't, and it's a hot topic, well, there's going to be blowback, right? So it's not like he didn't factor that in. And that big long Truth Social post, everybody's analyzing it, but is it just a smoke screen to throw you off? So it's like I said, my views are down. I think everybody in the world's views are down because you're competing with the DJT Daily Show. Everything the guy does is where everybody's eyeballs are glued to. So anyhow, yeah, who knows? But a chess player seeing 110 moves ahead, pretty sure he saw it coming. Yeah, Trump is 3 months ahead, laughing, watching people trying to keep up. That's a good assessment. I agree with that. It's like he put something out for all the masses to complain about, but by then he's already way ahead of you. It's sort of like this game here. If you sit around and listen to the negativity and what they call the haters and the trolls and dwell on that, what you have to do is move faster than the speed of hate, in this YouTube game, right? By the time somebody complains about me, I'm already 3 videos ahead. I don't got time to even worry about it. And it's, I'm sure he'll weather the storm somehow or another. It's been factored in. But, again, I think we'd all agree, if it's just info about Epstein, okay, no reason to release all that, all right? All it's going to do is open up old wounds for the victims. It's just going to, it doesn't make any sense, right? The list, you can't believe the written word. So what? They put a list out. How you going to know that everybody that's on there is supposed to be on there? You can't believe what's written because they just wrote that memo, and I don't believe all that shit, right? So no big deal to me about the list. Even if they put it out, it ain't gonna be accurate. Come on. When's the last time the government told you the truth about something? Okay, midterms are at stake here. Okay, let's see. I laugh says he says stupid shit. All the left, right, blue, red's a perfect way to keep people fighting each other rather than fighting the actual problems. Andy says he's too dumb to play chess. Guitar Jam says I think the victims would want the files released. And Jacob says you're doing a good change, brother. Keep speaking politics to spread the invocation of thought. Yeah, and that's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do, folks. You know, I'm not no rocket scientist. Just a redneck from the backwoods of Mississippi. I quit drinking, so my show's not as interesting as it used to be. But there's always more to the story. And like I said, you know, now I know when I sit down in front of the TV, I'm going to be watching documentaries to get to the bottom of the key players involved. Does that make sense? So I hope I've done the same for you, you know. Look at it a little bit deeper. There's a bigger picture here. All right. Yeah, I'm from the government and we're here to help. Yeah, exactly. You ever watch that old episode with Ronald Reagan on Johnny Carson? Or, you know, Reagan basically, he's the governor then, he basically says, you know, government is the problem. Everybody's like quiet because they never heard a politician talk like that. Yeah. My tagline for many years was, you know, I believe in, what was it? I believe in less government, cold beer. What was the other one? Anyhow, I believe in less government. I don't believe in zero government. I like the Wild West, but I believe in a lot less government. So all these cuts, you know, it cuts both ways. People losing their jobs, that's always a hard thing, but our government is just nothing but stuffed with fluff. You could take out about 70% of it, make it efficient. The 30% could operate. You know, so all the cuts they need to happen. Okay, do a deep dive on Building 7 that collapsed on 9/11. Hey Jeff, man, that's a lot of these topics where, you know, I'm aware of it, but I've never done really a deep dive in it. I don't know enough about it. I know there's a lot of, I did watch a documentary the other day about the possible fifth plane. That was a pretty good documentary where, long story short, one of the planes was late taking off, went back to the gate. They had several folks up front. One was dressed as a woman, but they knew it was a man. And then later on, they found box cutters on the adjacent plane. Anyhow, there was a fifth plane. There was a great documentary about it. Okay, Jim, let's see. Hope you're advising those girls on how to make better videos. Talking about the ladies down in the village. Yeah, I give them, folks, I give them the best safety briefing, the best training I could. A lot of stuff they're gonna have to learn through trial and error, just through life. They're grown women. They're fourth-year college students about to graduate and go out into the world. So, you know, I can only tutor them so much. They're grown women. They can do what they want. But as far as the filming, I keep harshing on them. Hey, hold the camera still. Not like this, like this, like this, like this. And they're notorious for that, right? And it took a long time to get Fatima just hold the camera still. So we're still working on that. We're still working on it. Okay, Graciano, how are you? How are you? So folks, that'll be the end of the discussion. I want to thank you for joining me. I'll stay on here for about 10 minutes and we'll just talk about stuff that has nothing to do with the topic. But if you're just joining us, the show talking about Epstein is over. Now I'm just going to talk to my loyal viewers out there. And if you're brand new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and check that notification bell. Most of y'all ain't got that bell checked. That's why you don't get notified. All right, so let's see. Okay, hi, Tazwell El Conquistador, Big Daddy Whipped Cream. Thank you for all the knowledge and info that you give us on your channel, especially on the Philippine lifestyle and the Filipinas. God bless you and your family. Thank you very much, my friend. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you. Okay, nice live stream, but I think you are thinking every excuse to protect Trump with the Epstein files. I try to stay pretty neutral. Maybe I went a little bit too far, but I was just using logic when it comes to comparing it to the Saddam Hussein situation, right? I mean, I sat there and I watched the interviews with Saddam Hussein, and I'm like, man, come on, we already know the answer to this. You know, if a foreign country is invading your country, you're going to use every weapon system that you got, because there is no more red line. The red lines have crossed. They're coming in, dropping bombs on your head, going to kill you. You're going to use every weapon that you have at your disposal. You're not going to hold anything back. You know, and that's what the man said, and that's what ended up being accurate, right? So it just goes that a possibility why there's not is because they had 4 years to dig through that shit and try to find something on the guy that would have, you know, taken him out of the race that easy. And it never happened. So then the question is, why didn't it happen? Okay, government agency that holds all that stuff didn't give it to him, didn't tell him about it. And believe it or not, you know, people in office, they don't know everything that goes on in the government. You know, I mean, back there in the Manhattan Project, the vice president didn't know anything about it. So, you know, maybe the material exists and they just didn't know about it. Because if they knew about it, they would have released it and he wouldn't have been the president. So I don't want to come off as being too biased either way, because you got to look at things objectively. So I think there's several possibilities. You know, I mean, I've seen the pictures too of him and, Trump and his wife and Jeffrey and Ghislaine all together, you know, look pretty chummy. So I don't know. I just have to throw the possibilities out there to invoke thought. All right, let's see. Her name is now Virginia Guffrey, married name. Let's see, you're a champ. Peace out, bro. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for tuning in, my friend. I saw a pic of him 2 years ago. He's alive and working in Israel for the Mossad. Thanks, William. Okay, folks. And then Jeff said it was a steel frame building that collapsed straight into its own footprint. Okay, maybe I'll have to watch some documentaries on that, but probably for the next couple nights, I'm gonna be digging into Maxwell's father. Probably end up getting that book from Seymour and reading the whole damn book before I put it down. Yeah, I've been talking for an hour, still have 100 watching. Quite amazing. Good job. Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. Take a look at Crooked Hillary. Man, years ago, YouTube was still young, where you could post anything and they weren't smart enough to take it down or what have you. Back then, a lot of good information was posted about the Clintons. And then throughout the years, as I went back and tried to look at it, I can't find it. But back in the day, you could just sit there and put a piece of the puzzle together about their carnage. So, yeah. Hey, DJ Joe. I'm not sure what's going on over there, my friend. I'm not sure. Johan, how are you, my friend? It's okay. You can still be a loyal viewer without him reading your comments on the stream. Okay. KC, I skipped my comment. All right, let me scroll back up, man. I didn't see that till now. We all know that DJT basically guilty. I don't know. I don't know, but again, there's just more to the story. You know, you got to follow the money, the people, the players. It's like my buddy told me about XRP. I'll tell a story about XRP. People ask me if I'm into crypto. A buddy of mine several years ago, dude about 80-something years old. Shout out to you, man. If you're still around, I hope you are. Hope you're doing well. This guy didn't know nothing about crypto, nothing about nothing. But he was an engineer. He's an engineer. He holds several patents. Very smart individual, smarter than the average bear. And one guy started telling him about cryptocurrency and told him about this XRP. So, you know, what old guys do, sit around and read. Started digging into it. Didn't know anything about this stuff. But in his mind, the research he did was the people involved. And so when I went and was hanging out with him, he said, man, let me tell you about this. And what he couldn't get over was that the people that were involved with XRP, Ripple, he didn't know anything about the technology, what it was for, what they're going to do with it. But he looked at the people and said the people that are involved with this didn't quit their jobs of being a who's who with the money that they were making to be a part of this project without a bigger plan. You know, a 10, a 20, 30, 40, 50 year planning horizon. And that's how he looked at things. Didn't know anything else about it. He just looked at the people. That's all he wanted to know, who's involved with the project. And that's what sold him on investing in it. So this is the same case. There's more to the story. You just got to look at the people and go back in time to see how this thing got started. Does that make sense? And that's what I'm going to do by watching a bunch of documentaries, reading Seymour's book. If you don't know who Seymour Hersh is, you know, he's also the one just wrote the article about the pipelines that got blown up. He's the one that got the inside scoop about how the U.S. blew up those pipelines. Drain the swamp, release the Epstein files. Will he be part of that swamp? You know, I don't know. I mean, if they're gonna release him, I would say no. I'm not saying that he wasn't that there's not some evidence there floating around somewhere. But come on, if the U.S. government's going to release that stuff, it's going to be so redacted, sanitized, files missing. You're not going to know what to believe. So my point is everybody's getting upset over no reason. Because even if they release it, you don't believe it. It's not going to be accurate. You know what I mean? So, hey, Chuck, own a lot of XRP, doing very well. Good on you, my friend. Good on you. Okay, so DJT is the swamp. You know, I just remember years ago, like when I first detected that there was this like divide in this like section that was totally against Trump. I was in a bar, and it started happening quite frequently. You know, over in Thailand, I don't have many American friends or acquaintances. Most of my people that I know over there are from other countries. You know, Europe, Australia. They're not from the U.S. And what happened back then, I would sit in a bar, and there'd be another American there, and I'm trying to mind my own business, talk to some ladies, and it'd go like this. It'd be like, "Hey man, you American?" "Yeah." "What do you think about Trump?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't really know, man. I live over here in Thailand. Why don't you ask me what I think about, you know, the politics going on here and the coup?" And I knew about all that. That's where I live. But every time I would encounter an American, it was like two questions, two or three. "Hey, you an American?" "Yeah." "Where you from?" You know, Florida, make some shit up. "What do you think about Trump?" And you had to go left or right. They wouldn't take my answer. "Man, I don't know. I've lived here for years. I don't fucking know what's going on in America. I don't live there. I have no idea." And they would not take no for an answer. They had to have an answer where they knew either that you agreed with them, or it's time to go to battle in a bar in Pattaya or Angeles City when I'm trying to look at some girls up on the stage. It make no sense. And it's obviously went that way ever since. Hey Carl, how you doing? All right, man. Thanks for joining us. I got an early start or a late start, depending on where you're at on the globe. So I'm about to shut her down. But one thing, when we talk about that, how that 1 minute of footage, you know, is missing. Well, people were sending me messages saying on my 12-hour marathon live stream, they kept saying, "Hey man, you almost made it. What happened? You almost made it." I'm like, I went to 12 hours and added like 5 or something onto it. But YouTube only archives the first 12 hours. So I guess if I go look at it, it might not have shown the full 12, but it's there. So anyhow, that just, when I looked at that missing minute, I'm like, well, damn, hell, I'm missing 5 or 6 minutes on my last live stream because of the software. You know, I don't think it's nefarious. But who knows? Okay, DJ Joe, I can care less about politicians. They're all corrupt. Admin staff is cooked. Not a good look for them. I was watching the show last night. I watch it quite frequently. I catch an episode or two. I can't remember if I was watching Narcos Mexico or the original Narcos. Yeah, I think it's the original one, the Colombia with Escobar. And they're putting guns in the trunk, right? And Escobar says, "Hey, you don't need all that. You're just going to meet a politician. You know, you're not going to meet a gangster. You don't need all them rifles." The guy comes up and he goes, "But boss, I thought politicians and gangsters were the same." And he said, yeah, good point. But all you need is your pistols, because politicians scare easy. Don't take the rifles. Hey Butch, how you doing, my friend? Yeah, they said the video had been edited on Adobe, so they even knew what software they use. But again, is it nefarious to where they're trying to hide something, or just the fact that they got these 2 damn clips that at midnight the shit resets and glitches and they tied the clips together to export it? You know, I think more likely that's what happened, but who knows? Okay, I don't have the facts. I'm just speculating here, like Ron Burgundy. Okay, they did take a forensic look at that video, yeah, and it was spliced together with Adobe. Yep. And then what about Hillary's Benghazi emails, the laptop? Yeah. What do politicians do? What do we pay them to do? They stand up. They're basically criminals who act like children, or they're children who are criminals. I mean, what do politicians do for us? Since when has a politician ever told you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you very much, Carl. Thank you very much, my friend. Thanks for tuning in. Off the top ropes of the octagon. Thank you so much. I mean, seriously, when have they ever told the truth? You know, how do you know they're lying? Well, their lips are moving. But as long as you know that, then you're never disappointed, right? I mean, what's the difference? You could look at governments like the mafia. Okay, you have this crime family, the Bonanno crime family, the Gambino crime family, and the biggest crime family of all is the government crime family. What do? They take money from you. They don't give you anything in return. Sounds like the mafia to me. Okay. In simple terms, there's just no positive things coming. All right. Well, we all have different opinions. You know, like any politician, some things, or any decision by the government, some things I agree with, some things I don't. Some things, you know, okay, a little bit of it's good, a little bit of it's bad. That's the way I look at it. So I'm not totally for or against anybody. But what I do like about DJT is that I know he's in charge. Because of the 4 years, nobody on this earth knew who was in charge of the United States of America. Nobody. We still don't know who was in charge. There was nobody at the helm. Nuclear football floating around. Who's got the code? That was quite scary. Now, at least you know who's in charge. It's sort of like when I first got married. I'll tell a story here and I'm going to shut her down, okay? My first wedding was at the Justice of the Peace. And the judge, after it was over, he said, walking out, thank you, sir. He said, hold on a second. Let me give you my business card so you know who to bless or blame. And he gave me his card. 7 years later, yeah, I was blaming him. So, at least with this administration, I know who's in charge, and I know who to bless or blame. And that's much better than having absolutely no idea who's at the wheel. There was nobody at the wheel. It wasn't even a self-driving car. You know what I mean? It was just like a 1968 Chevy van driving itself. All right, so how about a day trip up to Pinatubo? I'm getting lazy. Yeah, I need to get up there. But it's not just it's like a full day thing. And the thing about those Pinatubo trips, you got to get there early. I think it's like 6:30 is the cutoff or 7 is the cutoff. You got to be there early or they cut it off. So which means, you've got to get up early to get up there. I'm in Thailand. It was Sahara hot today. Yeah, the weather here hasn't been too bad. With the rain and stuff, hasn't been too bad at all. Been sort of nice and cool with a cool breeze. But yeah, I need to get up to Pinatubo. I got to get me some hiking partners. I don't think Fatima's really into it. It's probably too much to take the kids, so I have to get me a traveler, as my dad says. Get somebody to go with me. Okay, good point, DJ Joe. Come September, when the NFL regular season starts, Americans will forget about the Epstein list. Right on the money. That's what sports do. Look at the history of Rome. The country's going broke. What'd they do? Double down on the sporting events. Takes people's minds off things. So, well, we'll see, folks. Who knows where it's going to take us? How the story is going to evolve. But that's my take on it. So I'm going to go ahead and shut her down. And again, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for being a loyal viewer here. And I hope the audio and the video and everything was okay. I got to get me a different microphone because I know this picks up a little bit of background noise. But I'll work on that, get me a better microphone. Okay. Well, speak now, forever hold your peace, because I'm about to close this out. Unless anybody's got one more thing to say. Let's see. Butch says they're saying Epstein was an informant and on the payroll for Israel. That's pretty much, that's pretty much what it looks like. Pretty much what it looks like. Whether he was a paid informant or, they caught him doing this type shit and he didn't have a choice. And, they're just so mission focused they look the other way as to what he's doing in his own time. But, the thing about it, as heinous as it is, okay, if you honey trap somebody or get video on somebody, blackmail material for intelligence purposes, if it's just a video of a foreign politician and some chick in Vegas, she's 30 years old and you get video, that might work. But what if the guy just decides to tell his wife, hey, I was in Vegas and ended up getting drunk and sleeping with this chick, and the Americans got a video and I've been working for them, I don't really want to. And he tells his wife, well, you got no more blackmail material on him. Again, the person actually has to care. But if you change that dynamic to where they catch them on video with an underage girl, it don't matter if you tell your wife, because it's criminal. Now it's heinous. Now it's the end of you. So is that what they were doing intentionally? That's heinous. That's heinous. But you want to control somebody 100%? That's the way you would do it if you had that material. They would pretty much have to do what you tell them to do. So again, that's just speculation. All speculation, folks. I don't know all the facts, but that is an accurate statement of how it would change the dynamic. There you go. Okay, father got him in this mess, 10 years gone. I missed the politically correct days. Okay. All right. Well, folks, that's all I got. I'm out of here. I'll see y'all on the next one. Hope y'all have a good one. Hope I invoked thought. You enjoyed the talk. I'll see y'all tomorrow, my friends. Y'all take care. Peace out.